And we're live. Good morning, everyone. Today is Saturday, the 7th of August, 2021, and we're going to be looking at quite a variety of topics actually today. It's kind of even more varied than it was yesterday. So let's just start with a few fun tidbits that have been happening. Virgin Galactic has now revealed the price of a seat on their next space flight as the ticket sales reopen. So I'm not entirely sure how they're managing, because the seats are going for, if I'm not much mistaken, $250,000. But here's the thing. Okay, no, 450 now. They've been updated, but that price is still quite accessible for many people. And I'm just wondering, because they only have 2 seats available, so are they like planning loads of flights? Not entirely sure. Now, this leads us to kind of looking at another space matter. There has been, the first time ever, an observation of a supernova captured in actual high details. So we now actually know what happens when a star dies. Like, properly know, as in we have proper footage of it, if you want to call it that. So that's quite interesting. Now, staying in the science technology world, Apple has decided that they're going to implement a system which will scan all images on iPhones for any pictures of child sex abuse. So this is being announced only for the US, and it will not be able to be rolled out immediately internationally, of course, due to international laws and so on. But the main point is the fact that it's still possible, in the sense that they're still doing something that will actually bring a lot of, well, honestly, just a lot of security, I guess, is one way of putting it, which is quite interesting. So kudos to Apple for that. Now, this kind of brings us to the more political matters of today, and there's a lot of those. There's a lot of those. But let's just quickly stay in media for one more. CNN fired 3 employees of theirs for coming to work unvaccinated, because they have now put in a policy by which no employee may come to the company without having received at least 1 COVID jab, or, if I'm not much mistaken, or having gotten better after COVID and had a jab. So they need to have at least 2 or cured from COVID plus 1. Quite a complicated situation. Speaking of COVID, that brings us to Italy. Italy is making a Vax Pass, so a little bit like the French system that has been causing a lot of problems in France, while it's causing just as many problems in Italy with their Green Pass system that would basically force any teachers, or any educating staff, any university students, and any people who commute long distance to have one of these cards to be able to go to work or simply to be able to commute. Now, this is of course leading to a lot of turmoil, and the people are not exactly very enthusiastic about this. And of course, yeah, it's a bit like in France. There's been a lot of protests against it. Apparently in Rome, Milan, Turin and Naples, there's been a lot of protests that have just been going on and on, because honestly, the people just don't want this to be a thing. I mean, they see it as a lack of, what would you call it, a lack of freedom. And honestly, their rights are being taken away according to them. That is what they're protesting against now. This brings us to another slightly political matter. The Alok Sharma, the president of the COP26, has flown to 30 countries in 7 months. So he is kind of being mocked for this, in the sense that he is responsible for this year's UN climate change conference in Glasgow, and yet has flown to 30 countries in 7 months. That's not exactly very climate friendly, let's put it that way. So that's just one statement on the political side. Now, this leads us to a more pressing matter, and a more, I would want to say, military matter, which is the fact that the USA and Taiwan have come to an agreement for a weapon sales from the US towards Taiwan. So this is the Joe Biden administration that has now approved this sale, and China did not, of course, approve, and they have said that they have to have a legitimate and necessary response after this sale was approved, because it is quite a lot. It's $750 million worth of arms to be sold to Taiwan. And there's a lot of kind of information going around this, so it really depends on which news source you look at, because of course it depends on what perspective they take. But the overall is it will be a lot of weapons, and the US sees it as a way of supporting supporting Taiwan's, well, freedom, I guess, if you want to put it that way. And China sees it as an attack on one of their territories who is trying to be independent, according to them. So there's a lot of back and forth between those two, and of course this is leading to some difficulties in their communications, let's put it that way. Now, this leads us a little further south to Indonesia, where the Indonesian army has finally signaled the end of the virginity test for female recruits. So this was something that had been happening, where basically if a woman was tested, I won't go into details about that, but if a woman was tested and was not found virgin, she would simply be refused to enter the army. So that is just a good thing that that's been removed, that's for sure. Now, staying in the Asian side of things, we have a very bad situation that happened in Tokyo, which is the fact that 4 people were stabbed in a knife attack on a Tokyo train, so during a commute on Friday. And there are still no motives that have been released about why it happened. All we know is that the train was stopped, someone pulled the emergency brake, the suspect left on foot and is apparently currently in custody. That is the only 2 things we know. One person was severely harmed, but again, there are not exactly a lot of details on that. 2 last pieces of information. One, the scientists have been spotting warning signs that the Gulf Stream is collapsing. This is the Gulf Stream that basically forms the weather for most of the planet, actually, honestly. It's the Gulf Stream that goes up the Atlantic, that's between the USA and Europe. So this is quite a big piece of information, and of course leads to a lot of climate worries, and immediate action needs to be taken, is what they're saying. This was according to The Guardian. And last but not least, let's finish off with a little note on the Olympics. So Ukraine's first black prime minister is now also its first gold medal winner ever in Tokyo. So, well, not ever, but in Tokyo. So their one prime minister was elected to the parliament in July 2019, and he took up wrestling, partially because of his experience with racism, and this turned into quite a good thing because he won them a gold medal at the Olympics. And this kind of just to finish on a really nice topic, there has been further research in amaranth, which is one of the grains that we use as food, and they reckon that it's very, very useful, and the fact that it has an 8,000-year-old health trend that has survived even colonization, it could well actually lead to becoming a superfood and becoming something that we eat on a global scale and that will help all of us in the future. So that's the news for today. There will be more hopefully tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in. If you like what you heard and you want to share it with people, I would be more than obliged. And for now, I wish you all a very nice weekend, as this is being live streamed on Saturday morning for me. See you next time. Bye.